Welcome to the 13th video in Unit 5. In this video we're going to talk about methods to reduce urban runoff, and we'll specifically look at what urban runoff is and why it's a problem, and then some of the things that are being done to try and reduce the impact. Now, a typical city block generates about 5 times more runoff than a woodland area of the same size. The idea being that if that area were not urbanized, the runoff would be 5 times less. Now, this gives you an idea of some of that process. So, with water in an area that has natural ground cover and a wooded area, you're going to get about 40% of the water taken away through evaporation and transpiration. 25% will be infiltrated on the shallow level, 25% deep, and then 10% runs off. Now, in an area that has 75% to 100% impervious, like a city block, only 30% is lost in evapotranspiration because there's less area for it to be evaporated and less transpiration. 55% is gone through runoff because 10% can be infiltrated shallow, only 5% can go deep because the soil is not as porous and permeable. So in a natural system, there's porous and different terrains that cause them to allow water to go through them and run off in a very slow manner, which gradually gets them into the ground through the process of infiltration and percolation. When we talk about an area like a city block, we're looking at what is known as impervious or non-porous surfaces like roads or parking lots and rooftops. And this prevents the rain and snowmelt from infiltrating the ground. So we have to do something with that water. Now, runoff can typically concentrate and gather speed as it goes through sewers, which can cause a large amount of that water to cause more erosion as it goes into an area. It can cause nutrients to be brought with it, which can essentially pollute the source. Because of the amount of volume and power that comes from the runoff, it can actually wipe out an aquatic habitat. Now, we also see an increase in flooding during wet weather and then lower stream flows during dry weather because the water all has to run off immediately after an event, as opposed to being given a little bit of time to gradually enter into the stream. We also have pollutants that are being carried by runoff. Many of the pollutants that you can find in runoff include sediment, oil, grease, and toxic chemicals from motor vehicles, pesticides and nutrients, viruses, bacteria, and nutrients from waste and failing septic systems, salts from roads, heavy metals that come from roof shingles or cars and other sources, thermal pollution from dark surfaces, which causes the water to become warmer. And then that all will eventually run off somewhere. So some of the things that are being done for mitigation, like permeable pavement, which allows stormwater to infiltrate into underlying soils, and it actually promotes the treatment of pollutants and groundwater recharge. There are also certain types of sidewalks and pavements that are done that are made specifically to help with the mitigation of runoff. Pavements are designed to be permeable. Some other things that are done are planting trees and other vegetation, the idea of building up instead of out, because by building up, you allow for more of that area to have natural infiltration. So this is 3 different water cycles for you: the natural water cycle versus the urban runoff cycle, or the urban water cycle, and then a more sustainable water cycle that would be something that we would obviously want to move towards. So naturally, we have a lot of mitigation methods that allow the runoff to slow down. As we add more urban areas, we have more runoff, less water infiltrates, which causes more point solution and non-point solution. The idea of a more sustainable method is by reducing and allowing reducing the amount of impervious surfaces and allowing more water to infiltrate, and then catching the contaminated water and treating it before it goes off into the groundwater or into the surface water. So you can see in this image some of the things that we can do to help versus harm runoff. One of those being that, you can see this guy just pouring an inconspicuously just pouring what appears to be blood. I'm going to assume that's blood into the storm sewer. It's important to understand storm drains are not always treated in different cities. It depends on how they deal with their storm runoff. So it's important to know that most city runoff is not treated. Like in Reno, if it goes into the storm drain, it goes into the Truckee. So that's the end of urban runoff. Our next video will be all about integrated pest management.